So far, 2026 has been a great year for games. Pragmata came out of nowhere, caught me by surprise, and ended up being excellent. Subnautica 2 released into early access, to great success, much to Crafton's dismay. And Slave Aspire 2 is well on its way to being my favorite deck builder roguelike ever. But there's plenty more to come. So in today's video, I'm going to go over the 10 best games still releasing in 2026, or at the very least, the ones that I'm most looking forward to. So first up, we've got Mortal Shell 2. I played the beta for this one, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's a big step up from the original. What sets Mortal Shell apart from other Souls-like ARPGs? The shell system. Basically, you play as a bunch of different dudes and you can swap between them to gain unique abilities. But when your shell dies, you have a chance to deal enough damage and regenerate the shell, effectively meaning you have 2 health bars. Now the beta was just a vertical slice with limited content, but there were a few weapons to try, my favorite being the axe. Meanwhile, defensive actions like a parry or block is tied to your seal. The parry seal deals more stagger damage, whereas the block seal, if you don't time it right, you block. I highly recommend the block seal over the parry seal, as I found the parry to be quite janky. The Slayer seal allows your ranged weapon to deal break damage. That's a really fun playstyle. You can even perma-stun bosses with it. Then there are Tar Stones, which is your weapon customization. You can add different buffs, passive effects, etc. Overall, came together really well. There was a healthy amount of AA jank, especially around the camera, some of the parries, and some of the enemy AI. That said, I had a good time, and I'm looking forward to playing the game on release, so get subscribed if you want to see more of my thoughts. Mortal Shell 2 comes out August 20th for $50 on PC, PS5, and Xbox. As a note, don't get FOMO'd by the advanced access on August 17th. It is not worth paying $10 to play the game 3 days early, unless you're a content creator or streamer or someone who's going to be, making reviews and informing everyone else. Then next up we have Star Wars Zero Company. When I first saw this one, I was skeptical. Mostly because it's a licensed IP, and I've seen a lot more of those go bad rather than good recently, especially if the writing gets way too quippy. But after checking out the recent previews, it looks solid, and I didn't cringe during the dialogue sections. Earlier this year, I played a bunch of a Menace Early Access, had a really good time with that. That wasn't too much of a story-driven game, it was much more about the gameplay, setting up your dudes, kitting them out, and blasting a bunch of bugs. Zero Company looks to have plenty of customization. It's not like you're just choosing shotgun or rifle. Now you got things like lightsaber, or you could even be a bounty hunter. But the thing that really attracts me to it is the bigger focus on the story and telling the tale of a Zero Company who seems to be in it for just one last job. Especially because the lead narrative director previously worked on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Star Wars Zero Company released August 27th for $50 on PC, PS5, and Xbox. Not 100% sure if I'm going to play this right when it comes out because the end of August is pretty busy, but if I don't, it's going on my backlog and I'll catch up with it later. Next we've got Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy, the newest game in the Plague Tale series. This time with a new main character who seems to be a bit more competent when it comes to direct combat. The Plague Tale games are kind of this very immersive, story-based, stealth, a bit of action, lots of puzzle solving, real creepy vibe kind of game. And there's certainly all of those elements in Resonance, but at the same time there's this backdrop of mythological combat, where you spend half the time playing as Sophia, going through puzzles probably similar to the other games, sort of gives me some Myst vibes with the way the puzzles work. What has me really interested are the flashback sections, because as Sophia is exploring, I'm guessing, the modern day ruins of the maze, Theseus is dueling it out in the gladiatorial arena. So I think there's going to be more of a focus on combat, and that has me interested. That said, this is probably going to end up on my backlog because if I have to choose between this and Zero Company, which I do because they come out on the same day, probably going to choose Zero Company. It's releasing on August 27th for $50, PC, PS5, and Xbox, and I'm probably going to add it to my backlog and pick it up on sale or through Humble Bundle. Next up we have The Blood of Dawnwalker, a game from some of the people who made The Witcher 3. And I really hope this one's good, but I'm going to go into it with a grain of salt, because it is incredibly ambitious, and whenever I see a very ambitious project, whether it's something from a major studio, Fable, really good example of that, I hope that's very good, but I'm not entirely sure, and especially when it's from a smaller team, an indie dev, a new developer, it is always so hard to tell. Sometimes they nail it, sometimes they don't. That said, I love The Witcher 3. It's one of my favorite games of all time. So I really hope that this does end up capturing at least some of the weight in choices when it comes to narrative. I know this game is not trying to be The Witcher 3, and it's probably an unfair expectation to put those Witcher 3 vibes on it. But it's an open world RPG from some of the people who made The Witcher 3. Yes, I know the main character is a vampire, not a witcher. There's going to be comparisons. I'm sure I'm not the only one. That said, the part that does interest me the most is the way your choices interact with the story. There's the day-night system. You can do certain things as Cohen during the day, then different things at night when he gets a little bit spooky and starts biting people. The combat reminds me a lot of Witcher, both in the good ways and the bad ways. But then there's the unique structure for the main story, where you have 30 days to complete it. And your choices along that path will mean you don't get to do everything, and this shapes the end result. I like this idea, and I especially like that it's not tied to real time. So I'm not going to worry about, oh, do I have time for this, or do I need to get back to the main story? Because my understanding is that time, at the very least, when it comes to the main story, advances based on your actions within those main quests. So if you want to go kill every single bandit on the entire map, you are free to do that, and the main story is unaffected. You don't just lose the game because you killed too many bandits. Really cool concept. That said, I highly recommend you watch reviews on this one. Whether it's your favorite website, your favorite YouTuber, wherever you get reviews, find someone you can trust, wait for their opinion on the Blood of Dawnwalker. Could be amazing. I really hope it is. But unfortunately, this is the kind of ambition that does sometimes end in spectacular flops as well. The Blood of Dawnwalker releases on September 2nd for $70 on PC, Xbox, and PS5. On the other hand, I have a lot of confidence in Onimusha Way of the Sword, because the game released a demo. As far as I know, it's still up now. You can check it out for yourself. You play as Miyamoto Musashi, pretty much the archetypical samurai badass, and oh boy does the game make you feel like a badass. Get a couple parries, fill an enemy stagger bar, and just cleave them in half. While combat felt great, I did find the demo to be a bit easy, especially fighting normal enemies. There are several times where they do surround you, only to patiently wait their turn to be parried and cut in half. And yeah, this does make the experience a little bit easy. But first of all, I think the full game is going to have more difficulty, especially around the bosses. Second of all, I'd actually prefer this to each group fight just being you running around overwhelmed, because your parry stopped working since all the enemies are attacking with different rhythms and timings, and you can't do anything except run away, string them out, and hope for an opportunity to attack. On the other hand, the boss at the end of demo, Ganryu, was excellent. This guy was a blast to parry, and finally beating him down was so satisfying. Took me a couple tries to get the hang of it. I especially like how they deal with the grab attacks. Those are the bane of my existence in most Souls-likes. Here, the button to avoid it is B. I'm probably going to hit B in a panic. Oh no, I need to dodge the grab. So a lot of the time I was avoiding it naturally. And it felt really rewarding to parry the boss's moves, open up that weak spot, and absolutely tear a chunk of his health bar off. That said, it only took me a couple tries, so I am hoping there are more difficult bosses later in the game. Based on some previews I've seen, it's looking like that's going to be the case, so I'm very much looking forward to Onimusha Way of a Sword when it releases on September 4th. It's going to be $70, and it's coming out on PC, PS5, Xbox, and Switch too. Now in the middle portion of September, there's a whole bunch of games releasing into 1.0, but more about that later. For now, I want to talk about Minecraft Dungeons 2. This is the perfect ARPG to play with your kids, or that special person in your life, be it a friend, family member, or significant other, who quit video games forever after opening the Path of Exile skill tree. Because Minecraft Dungeons is way simpler. There's still loot to grind for, still enemies to fight, still cool builds to make, but you don't need a spreadsheet to make it all work. You want a more casual ARPG that's fun, easy to get into, and has got some solid mechanics? Well, if you like the original Minecraft Dungeons, this is probably going to be along those lines. It releases on September 29th for $30 on PC, PS5, Xbox, and Switch too. There's a good chance I'm going to be checking it out, so stay tuned for more on that front. Then there's Valor Mortis, a game that was going to come out in September, and quietly exited to October because there's too many games coming out in September. I played the demo for this one. It is from the developers of the Ghost Runner series. That was a fast-paced action parkour game. This is a much slower-paced, more Soulsy action parkour game. Yeah, there's a way more epic boss fights than I remember from Ghost Runner. Also, you are still jumping between different terrain types and often flying through levels. On one hand, I think the game does some really cool stuff with its first-person perspective when it comes to the parkour and movement. Grappling hook feels really good. On the other hand, The combat does tend to suffer because of a first-person perspective. I've played both the early playtest and the demo. In both cases, I came away with overall a positive experience, but there were several times where I kind of got stuck on terrain because of that first-person perspective. So I think this is going to be a bit more of a Marmite experience, where some people are just like, absolutely not. Other people are going to be really into it. I'm landing somewhere in the middle where I definitely want to play it at some point, but whether I play it at release or pick it up on sale, kind of going to depend on the price point, which, based on the Steam page, is not announced yet. So that said, Valor Mortis releases on October 13th on PC, PS5, and Xbox. Also in October is Castlevania Belmont's Curse, the newest game in the Castlevania series, and also the newest game made by Evil Empire, which is also the studio that made Rogue Prince of Persia and worked on the Castlevania DLC for Dead Cells. So they've got a bit of a pedigree here. I've not played this yet. I'm really hoping a demo comes out before release, but either way, I'm already sold. Number one, because I like my platformers more on the Castlevania side than on the Metroid side, especially when it comes to action combat. And number two, I have yet to play anything from Evil Empire that I've disliked. This is coming out on October 15th for PC, PS5, Xbox, and Switch, and it's going to be $30. If you want to see my thoughts on the game, get subscribed. Definitely going to be playing it around release. At the end of October, we have Phantom Blade Zero, and this game looks insane. Over the top, non-stop action, 100% spectral fighter. I don't know if it's going to be difficult. I don't know if it's going to be easy. Honestly, I don't even care. These fights look awesome. This is very much a game where Rule of Cool is 100% in play. The newest reveal starts off, you're riding on a wagon, a couple guys attack you. Simple enough scenario, so you probably stop and no. You parry their bullets, using bullet time to dodge some of them, then, while still on the wagon and them still on horseback, you duel them. Looks like there's kind of a Devil May Cry thing going on. You have a blue aura and a red aura, you seem to be able to use it to disrupt some enemy moves, and then it just goes into this insane boss montage before revealing at the end that they got Donnie Yen for the mocap, so no wonder the martial arts look so good. I am really hyped for this. I cannot wait. It is one of my most anticipated games of the year, and if it is even 50% of what the trailers look like, it's going to be spectacular. That said, I am trying to temper my expectations here a little bit, because with great expectations comes great room for disappointment. That said, regardless of if it's good, bad, amazing, whatever, I'm going to be covering it. Get subscribed, keep an eye out for that. Phantom Blade Zero releases on October 29th. It's going to be $60, and it's coming out on PS5 and PC. So those are the new games that I'm looking forward to. There's also some returning favorites, shall we say. Games that entered early access and are now releasing into 1.0. I'm just going to run through those real quick, along with a couple games that don't have a release date for 1.0 but should be coming out this year. First of which is Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. Very much a big step up from the original Moonlighter, goes from a mix of shop sim and Zelda dungeons to roguelike shop sim and roguelike Zelda dungeons. And very much feels like a Hades moment for Digital Sun. They've done a lot of cool stuff in the past, but this feels like a step up from anything they've done previously. It's coming out September 2nd, so there's a good chance I won't be able to play it immediately, but I do plan to pick it up when I have the time. There's also a whole bunch of survival games. Valheim, RuneScape Dragon Wilds, Enshrouded, all hitting 1.0. I don't know if I'm going to play all of them. Definitely going to play some of them. I've avoided the early access for all of these because when it comes to a survival game, I find I get really into it, I play through everything, and I don't come back to it. Which unfortunately happened with both V-Rising and Palworld, so I kind of missed out on 1.0 for those. Of the three, I'm most interested in RuneScape Dragon Wilds, just because RuneScape has a great vibe. I really love the world Jagex has built, and it'd be nice to experience it in a different form. Then there's Endless Legend 2, also exiting early access around mid-September. Played the demo, and I quite liked it, but at the time, it was a little bit rough. Where Endless Legend sets itself apart from your traditional 4X game, there's a bigger focus on storytelling, meaning some of the decisions you make might have consequences. Also, for Endless Legend 2, there's a really cool mechanic where you start on a map surrounded by the ocean, and as you play, and as time passes, the sea retreats, opening up new areas to explore and conquer, so you don't run into that situation where endgame, the only thing you can do is take over other cities from other players. Really cool, but again, didn't dive too deep because I knew if I did, I wouldn't come back to it. Now, for a couple games that don't have set dates, first up, No Rest for the Wicked. I played this when it first entered early access. Since then, it is almost a completely different game. Very much looking forward to that. It is coming out at some point in October. I'll probably catch up with it in November or December just because October is already a packed month. But who knows, maybe it's early October when I'm not doing too much, and I'll play it right on release. Last but certainly not least, there's a game which, while it doesn't have an official release date, it has heavily been implied will be releasing at the end of 2026. That being Path of Exile 2. It entered early access roughly 2 years ago, and at the time, it was both very cool and also a bit bare bones. On the cool side, GGG has absolutely leveled up their storytelling, environmental design, music, and immersiveness. It felt way more like playing through a cinematic Sony game than my original experience with Path of Exile back in 2014, where I had to constantly spam /OOS to resynchronize with the servers. Now, I was going through and experiencing a story, and watching the ice crystals hang in the air after my comet slammed into an enemy, obliterating them. Now, on the loot and buildcraft side, PoE 2 is still a spreadsheet simulator. If you want to just unga-bunga brain off hit monsters without thinking about your build, this is not going to be the game for you. But they have come a long way to make things more approachable. The tooltips and sub-tooltips are a lot, and one thing which I do think helps a lot of new players, the barrier to entry around gems is a lot lower. You don't have to worry about specific socket colors, for example. You just kind of sort of link things that go together, and usually it works well enough, at least for the campaign. So the game has taken huge strides. I'm sure it's improved a lot over the course of the early access. I've not played since the early access launched, because I want to experience the content when it's finished, or at least as finished as any live service can be. That means going through Act 4 for the first time, along with Acts 5 and 6, probably trying one of the new classes, new storylines, all that kind of stuff. I'm very much looking forward to it. Do I think I'm going to regularly add Path of Exile 2 in my rotation? Honestly, probably not. At this point, I'm not that into playing any sort of live service game regularly, but I'll probably come back to it for really big updates like 2.0 or whenever they happen to add something that really catches my interest. While we don't have an official date, GGG strongly hinted that the announcement and possibly the launch would be somewhere around ExileCon, and this is also when Path of Exile 2 goes from being a paid game at $30 to a free-to-play game. So if you've been wanting to check it out but didn't want to put down $30 on something you might not like, that's the perfect time. So those are the top 10 games that are releasing in 2026, which I'm still excited for. Now some of them, I think they're sure shots. Either I've played a good bit of them, something like a demo, a preview, or it's an early access game that's releasing into 1.0. Others, things like Blood of Dawnwalker, I'm not 100% sure, even Phantom Blade Zero, it looks amazing, but I'm not 100% sure, I just really want it to be good. That said, Gamescom is coming up, there's a good chance we're going to get some more announcements, stay tuned for that. Also, if any of the games that I talked about sounded interesting, let me know down in the comments below. Which ones are you looking forward to? Hell, even if it's not on my list, let me know what you're looking forward to that might shape some of my content going forward. Also, if you want to see my thoughts on games that don't require you to wait for them to come out, don't worry, I gotcha. Here are some of my top timeless games that came out a while ago. They are still just as good if you play them today. That'll be up in the card and down below. Or check out my Steam Curator page to see my thoughts on all the games that I play. That's it, I'm going to get going for now. I need to go play some Onimusha. No, not Way of a Sword, the original Onimusha. To kind of get a vibe of where Way of a Sword came from, how the franchise started, I've been playing the original. It took some adjustment, but overall the game holds up. Might be talking about it more in a future video. Get subscribed if you want to see that. For now, thank you very much for watching to the end. I'm glad you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.